Thanks everyone for tuning in today. Welcome to the webinar. This one's called Building Websites for Humans, Search Engines, and Now AI. I'm Cara Corbett, the Partner Growth Manager at SUSO. And today I'm joined by our Head of SEO, Filip Ruprich, SUSO webinar first timer, so go easy on him, to talk about something very prevalent right now for pretty much anyone that handles or builds websites. And that's how do we structure and build websites properly so that they can be found and used by all the different types of visitors that might pay them a visit in 2026, whether that's humans or search engine bots, and now even AI agents. So here's a quick look at what we're going to be covering today. First, we're going to walk through how these search engines actually find and extract website content, spanning from Google to AI tools like ChatGPT. And this is really going to give us some good perspective and insights into the kind of technical foundations that we need to be considering when we're building websites, which we're then going to review in the second section together. And then after that, we'll go through some of the most common mistakes that we see in website builds that can impact your online visibility in 2026. And of course, we'll have time for some questions at the end, as we always do. And like I said, you can pop those into the chat panel on the right side throughout the webinar. So let's get into it. And we'll start off with a bit of a reality check. So in 2026, people are no longer only using Google as their main method of search, right? We've seen a huge increase in AI tools like ChatGPT and Claude, especially in the last few years. And because of this new user journey, the websites we build aren't necessarily the final destination anymore. In fact, research from Bain & Company shows that roughly 60% of searches on these tools end without a single click because users are getting all of that information that they need within the AI response. So there's not really any need for them to click into a third-party site to find what they're looking for. So we're calling this the zero-click search reality. Additionally, we're now even seeing the early stages of an agentic web where a user might instruct an AI agent to buy a new pair of running shoes for them, or maybe make a reservation at a restaurant or a hotel for a specific time and date. And even though the implementation and the adoption of agentic checkout features remain kind of limited at the moment, we just can't ignore that the entire funnel from initial discovery to conversion can potentially be handled by an agent in a chat without the user visiting the website a single time. Now, these realities don't make websites irrelevant, but it does change their role entirely. After all, AI tools have to get their verified and trusted information about a business or an organization or company from somewhere, right? And that's where we have a really important role to play as website builders and owners, because we're no longer just building something beautiful for humans to engage with. We're actively building an information layer to train and fuel AI responses and action. Essentially, agents and bots are increasingly becoming the middleman between your website and the end user. And we need to make it easy as possible for the middleman to find, parse, and extract your website's information. But in order to do that, we need to understand how these search engines work at the foundational level first. So, Filip, why don't you tell us a bit more about this process?
Sure. So on the left side, this is the model we all know. Search engine bots crawl your site, index it, and then rank pages based on the keywords, backlinks, and technical factors. So the goal was simple: get the click. On the right side, this is how AI engines work today. They don't rank pages in the same way. It takes a user's prompt and breaks it down into multiple subqueries in the background, and that's called query fanout. Then it retrieves specific pieces of content from the web to address all those subqueries, often through existing indexes like Google or Bing. And then it combines those pieces or chunks and synthesizes them into a single answer. So instead of ranking pages, AI is assembling answers. And this is the fundamental shift in technical priority. We are no longer optimizing pages to be clicked. We are optimizing content to be extracted. So for years, we built pages. We structured content to be read from start to finish. But AI doesn't think in pages. It thinks in chunks. And chunks are smaller, self-contained pieces of information that can be pulled out, combined, and reused to answer a specific question. So instead of reading your whole page, AI is extracting the exact part it needs. And that means each section of your content now has to stand on its own. clear, structured, and complete. So the shift is simple. Now we are optimizing pieces of knowledge, not pages. But before AI can use these chunks, it first has to find them. And there are two ways your brand can show up in AI answers. So first, through training data, and that's what the model already knows. If your brand is there, you have a head start. But most of the time, AI relies on retrieval. It pulls content live from the web to answer a specific question. And this is the key point. Even if you are not in the training data, you can still win. Because what matters is simple. Can your content be found? If it's not retrieved, it doesn't exist. If you can't be found, you won't be used. So if your content can be found, the next question is, can it actually be used? Because in AI search, it's not enough to exist or even rank. Your content needs to be easy to extract, understand, and reuse. And this is exactly where web development plays a critical role. A great build won't guarantee visibility, but a poor one can completely block it. So if your content is hard to parse, poorly structured, or hidden, AI simply won't use it. So what actually matters? Starting from semantic HTML. So this is how AI understands structure. All of the headings, lists, and tables, these are signals that can help AI split content into usable chunks. So here on the left side, you can see a wall of text, not just without much CSS, but also without the HTML tags. And on the right side, we have another text structured with headings and subheadings, bullet points, and tables, which is not just easier for the human eye, but also better chunked for LLM perception. And the next technical factor important for AI visibility is schema markup. So marking up content with JSON helps search engines and LLMs understand meaning and context. So for example, here on the screen, you can see two snippets of schema validator test. The first one is the web page schema from susodigital.com. The other one is the blog article, also from SUSO Digital. Moving on, AI builds context through internal links. They show relationships between topics, not just navigation paths. So it's important to link together related content. For example, a service page and a supporting blog article, a service and sub-services, or blog articles from the same category. And next, we have URL structure. So URLs help explain what the page is about. So clear, descriptive URLs make content easier to understand, and folders show how everything is organized. And on the screenshots, you can see an example of nice structure part of the website. Then content needs to be visible. If it's hidden, of course, it doesn't exist. So for example, AI may skip tabs, accordions connected with JS-heavy rendering. Always remember about server-side rendering. So overall, it's pretty simple. The easier your content is to extract, understand, and connect, the more likely it is to be used.
So here's the thing. The decisions you make during a website build or migration can either set your online visibility up for success or quietly destroy years of potential search equity. So let's talk about why SEO has to be a part of the conversation from day one. I'm sure we've all been there. A project is nearing the finish line, the client is obsessed with the new UI, and there's a massive push to hit the go live date. In that environment, it's pretty tempting to treat SEO as a phase 2 task after the site is launched. But when we look at the data from hundreds of migrations, that decision creates immediate technical debt. If the SEO isn't in the room during the discovery, wireframe, and build phases, you're not just launching a website, you're actually launching a recovery project. So on the left, we can see the search afterthought model. You go through the discovery, the build, and the QA, focusing purely on the functional and the visual, and then you launch. Unfortunately, the result is things like broken redirects, drops in rankings and traffic, and inevitably a bad first impression with AI. Now, if the LLM crawlers hit a site that is structurally fragmented or explicitly blocks AI crawlers, then they stop citing it. And according to our data, a botched migration can lead to a visibility drop that takes over 500 days to recover. That's a year and a half of budget bleed and emergency reworks just to get back to where you started. Now, on the right, this is the integrated workflow that we use at SUSO. So discovery includes an SEO audit where we benchmark your current SEO and AI search performance before a single line of code is ever changed. And we're also happy to review wireframes and make suggestions according to best practices. We ensure that high-performing pages and content on the old site have a role to play on the new website, and that those high-value URLs get mapped to their closest equivalents. And then our QA includes a full site crawl where we're going to check the new URL structure, internal links, content, meta tags, schema markup, crawl issues, 404 pages, and the sitemaps that we're able to catch any issues before they hit the live server. When you launch this way, traffic and rankings are preserved, the AI retrieval is clean, and the brand maintains and grows both its SEO performance and its citations and AI answers. So the takeaway is pretty simple here. A beautiful site that can't be read by an AI is a failed build. So to avoid this, we actually follow a rigorous 4-stage migration checklist from pre-launch benchmarks to post-launch monitoring. And that ensures that the foundation is as polished as the interface. And we've included a QR code at the end of this deck so that you can download our full checklist and use it for your own projects as well. So it's easy to talk about technical debt in the abstract, but Filip and our technical team see the same patterns emerging across almost every technical SEO audit that we perform. And so we've categorized those into 3 main fail points that may prevent a site from ever reaching an LLM's response window. So Filip, why don't you take us through what those look like?
Sure. So the first type of issue is access. If AI can't access your content, nothing else matters. So let's start with JavaScript rendering. Modern frameworks are great for UX, but they can be a real risk for AI visibility. If your key content is loaded only on the client side, AI bots may never see it. The second issue is blocking AI bots, and I've seen that a lot of websites unintentionally block crawlers like GPT bot or Perplexity bot, and if these bots can't access your site, you won't show up in AI answers. And the third one is performance, especially time to first byte. AI system needs fast access to content, so if your server is slow, they may skip it and use a faster source instead. So before anything else, fix access, because you're not competing on content yet. You're competing on whether the AI can even see it. And once AI can access your site, the next step is understanding it. And this is where a lot of websites lose. So let's start with structure. If everything sits flat, all pages on the same level, AI can't tell what's important and what's not. What's the core service? What's the supporting content? Now, on top of that, no schema. So without structured data, AI has to guess. What's the product? What's the location? Who's the author? And if it has to guess, it's less likely to trust it. Then, internal linking. This is how AI builds context. If your pages aren't connected in a logical way, AI can't understand relationships between the pages. And without that, you can't build topical authority. And the last common mistake here, hidden content. If important content is hidden behind massive interaction, it may never be properly extracted. So the pattern here is the following. Besides access, AI needs clear structure, meaning, and connection.
Okay, we've covered quite a bit of technical ground, and it's easy for a development team to maybe feel like the goalposts have moved again. But it's important to remember that even a technically flawless build is the foundation, not necessarily guarantee of success. In our experience working on joint projects with web dev teams, we've seen that non-technical factors also heavily impact how LLMs cite a website. So being conscious of these helps you also stay confident when clients ask why they aren't showing up yet. And you can clearly demonstrate that the technical foundation is solid and then help the client look at the other 2 pillars, which are content and authority. So for content to be cited, it has to be more than just live. It needs to be original, value dense, and fresh. LLMs look for grounding claims backed by original research or verified data. So if a client's content is thin or it's outdated, even the most precise semantic structure won't be enough to earn a citation. Then there's offsite validation. AI models prioritize brands that have third-party mentions and backlinks from high-authority, industry-relevant sources. In 2026, context and sentiment are key. The models are looking at social signals like case studies and Reddit discussions and reviews on platforms like Google or G2 or Yelp, depending on the model. And to verify that, they want to make sure that the brand is actually trustworthy. Now, what we've learned from our successful agency partnerships is that the most profitable projects have a very clear division of labor. The dev teams we work with do what they do best, building high-performing sites with the logical structures and the clean semantics under our SEO guidance. They ensure that the site is fast enough for both humans and bots, and that's the part of the project success that they own. And in those collaborations, our role as SEO partner is to handle that AI-specific strategy that sits alongside the build. We provide the intent-mapped content requirements that fill the templates. We manage the digital PR to build the external trust signals that LLMs require. And besides that, we provide an in-depth AI visibility report and measure progress over time with our bespoke reporting dashboard. So the question we always have to answer at the start of a project is, how do we actually prove to the client which part of this system needs attention? How do we know if it's a technical crawl error or maybe a lack of brand authority? And to solve that, we had to build a way to measure the invisible, which leads us to our AI visibility checker, which is a really cool tool that we have built in-house. Filip, maybe you want to show us how this works. I'll just change my screen over to you.
Sure, thank you. So the problem we had was that standard SEO tools don't show how LLMs actually see your website. They track, of course, clicks and keywords, but not how AI interacts with your content or your server. So that's why we built AI Checker to make AI visibility measurable. So on our website, you can find this AI search visibility tool under SEO tools in the menu. And here we have like a really short form that you need to complete the website, your email, and the main services or products you want AI to find you for, and click on Generate Report. After a couple minutes, you will receive a ready report on your inbox. So of course, before our webinar today, I've generated an example report to quickly show you what do we have here. So starting from the very top, we have the AI visibility score. As we can see for this tested domain, it's limited visibility. It's calculated from over 100 data points across 6 key components of AI visibility within ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, and Grok. And across these 6 sections, we have answer frequency, which is how your brand is visible for the prompt that we generated. So during this process, we are creating 20 prompts, and we are checking your brand against these prompts if you are visible for these prompts. Share of visibility, so how are you visible in comparison to the market, to your competitors? It's also there. We are checking online reputation and brand authority. So not only if your brand is available, but also what's the sentiment behind it, right? It's also very, very important. And 2 last sections that I would like to go deeper today, because we covered already these topics on the webinar, which is training data and technical accessibility. So starting from the training data, I can click on this section. I have all the information that I need. And of course, this is the presence within the datasets and sources used to train AI models. Right now, for this tested domain, it's a weak presence. We can see that there were no information available in this model's training data in GPT 5.2, 5.1. The good information is that there was some information on Gemini free flash preview, which means the brand influenced the training data for this model. But when you scroll down a bit, we can see that most of the LLMs and their models didn't have any information about this brand. So it means 2 possible action points. First thing, I would definitely go and check the technical accessibility if these models have access to the website and they can be influenced by this brand, by this website, but also some other offsite activities that, starting from Google Business Profile, reviews, listings, citations, mentions, or digital PR, we can also influence the knowledge about the brand. And going next, technical accessibility, it's also there. So how easily AI tools are able to access, read, and use your website content? We are checking two things. First thing is AI bot accessibility analysis. So in the table on the left, you can find all of the bots that we are checking, their names, and also the purpose of these bots, and whether they are allowed to access our website or not, with some details like HTTP status, but also robots.txt and the latency. And for this specific example, we can see that GPT bot, the first one, was blocked. It doesn't have access to our website, right? So that should be really critical point to fix as soon as possible. And the second thing that we are checking is the AI data readability check. And here we check the time to first byte. And ideally, we would like to have the time to first byte below 0.2 seconds here. But for this case, for this tested domain, we have almost 2 seconds, right? Which means that if the LLMs would like to retrieve some information from our website, it will take a while. So there is like a huge potential that they will skip our website. So of course, another action point to address.
Something I want to add, Filip, just on the bots accessibility there. So when we looked at this report earlier, it was saying that GPT, they weren't in the training data for at least the test that we did, right? And we can see here GPT bot, which is the training bot, doesn't have access to the website. So right there, you're able to diagnose that issue. We can see GPT user, which is the bot that does that retrieval, not necessarily the training data, but when it goes out to the web, they do have access there. So it's not to say that this potential site might not ever show up, but they certainly will not be present in the training data if the GPT bot, which is their training robot, doesn't have access to the site. So
exactly, that is a good point. So yeah, that's basically it was what I wanted to show. Of course, we have many more sections regarding AI visibility. I encourage you to take a look on this tool, give it a test, test some other websites. All these sections are expandable. All of the sections have nice video explainers. So all the information that you need are there. But of course, if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out.
Perfect. Thanks, Filip. Okay, so this tool is actually just one of the many free resources that we offer in this thing called the SUSO Partner Club, which is a completely free resource for agencies and consultants. I like to call it a community, if you will, but essentially it gives you and your team access to things like free training and workshops. So I jump on a lot of one-to-one workshops with agencies where I teach them the foundational like SEO and AI search basics, essentially. We also have a free help desk, which essentially connects your team directly to our SEO and GEO specialists. So if you're ever working on something like a migration and you have a quick question, or maybe a client has a specific question about AI search that you don't know the answer to, we have an email or an actual form on our site that you can use and get a response within 24 hours. And then we also do free white labeled audits and custom reports. So these are pretty cool too. You would essentially work directly with me. You would give me the client's domain, any specific areas that they want to improve their visibility around, whether that's keywords or prompts or topics or products or services. And if there's any competitors, that's really helpful too. And then we'll have our team actually go and do some manual analysis on the site. We'll package that up into like a 15-page document. It'll be white labeled in your branding, like I said. We'll get that to you in about 2 to 3 business days. So a lot of free value up front for agency partners. It really helps you build the skills to support your clients with SEO and GEO without actually investing in it. To date, we've got over 2,500 members, which is really cool. You can see some of the great agencies that we work with there. We'd also love to work with you guys as well. So go ahead, join today for free if you haven't yet. There's a QR code on this slide. We'll also have a slide on the next slide with all the QR codes to some of the things we mentioned today. We've got that migration guide checklist. We've got our AI visibility search checker that Filip just walked through, and then we've got the partner club there as well. Nice and short and sweet one today. We've got some time for some questions. So I know there's quite a bit of discussion happening in the chat. I'll just pull up my question document here that I've got on the side. So Jamie, this is our head of content. He said, not a leading question as head of content. What do you think actually matters more for AI search, content or technical setup? Let's argue. Ooh, okay. Well, Filip, do you want to take it or do you want me? I mean, we could probably both give our perspective here.
Yeah, sure. So I've seen quite a really interesting conversation in the comments. Nice one. Yeah, so Jamie, don't get me wrong, but I think like content and technical are equally very, very important. But even if you have like superb content and if you have really poor technical accessibility, this content won't help. So based on that, I would bet on technical side. But yeah, as I said, both are really, really very important.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Filip. I think the technical side of AI search cannot be understated because as we saw with that free AI visibility report that you just checked, if the technicals aren't good, there's just no way for that beautiful content that you write to be cited. So they are both very important. We can't do one without the other, but I lean more towards technical and I always scream that to the rooftops. And that's why we do a lot of stuff with PR agencies because we're training them on that technical skill gap that they have so that they make sure that the content that they write actually is able to be seen. I don't know, Jamie, if you got a comeback. We can stay friends. Okay, glad to hear. Bouchon says, that's interesting. It seems real SEO efforts are working twice as well compared to the snake oil being sold on social media about SEO being dead. Yeah, it's funny. I always say this to people in my workshops. I remember when I first started in SEO, like 7-8 years ago now. I remember it was my first day on the job and I was monitoring this thing called Help a Reporter Out. I was a digital PR specialist, so I was trying to build backlinks by essentially pitching to journalists and things. And I remember there was a headline that was like, looking to speak to an SEO specialist because SEO is dead because of voice search. And that was like 8 years ago. And as far as I'm concerned, people have been saying SEO is dead since the dawn of SEO. Still hasn't gone anywhere. People are always going to need, answers to their questions. They're always going to search for those answers. So depending on how the channel changes, SEO is certainly not dead. Definitely more prevalent than ever, in my opinion. And I think we're at a really exciting time where SEO is kind of being redefined and we get to reverse engineer a whole new thing. And we're really in the infancy of AI search, which is super exciting. Matt, sounds like content is king, but it's nothing without the technical setup. I agree, Matt. Love that. Etienne, technical. Okay, we got lots of commentary. Technical is the skeleton. Content is the meat. Content draws AI to the site, but it needs the technical backbone. I love that we're all aligned here, and I'm sure a lot of developers here would agree. Bouchon would lean content first. Technical setup helps AI discover and understand pages, but it cannot make then content valuable in AI search. The biggest wins seem to come from content that is clear, specific, trustworthy, and easy to extract with strong technical SEO acting as a support system. Okay, Matt's got a question. Is AI really that bad at understanding JavaScript? Filip.
Yeah, so of course, when it comes to SEO, it's pretty much the same with AI search. It all depends. It depends on how heavy JS we have on the website. So I would definitely consider case by case, and also not only website case by case, but also LLMs case by case. Because, for example, Gemini could be great when it comes to the JavaScript rendering. On the other hand, the other LLM can be really bad when it comes to understanding JavaScript, right? So definitely we would like to mitigate the risk, and definitely some actions for each website should be taken. Take a look on the website, take a look on the elements, and perhaps an analysis per website is needed at the very end. So don't get me wrong, we still can use JavaScript. It's normal on daily basis for pretty much every website, but let's do not rely on very, very JS heavy websites.
Great answer. Okay, Bouchon, how do you make sure a website is included in the training data?
Yeah, so that's a good one because there is no like a submit button, right? As we have like, for example, for sitemap XML. So there's no like a direct influence, direct activity that we can make, but two things that we can make. So first thing is to take a look on the technical accessibility. So that's first point. We should take a look on that. From AI checker's perspective, we can quickly check that. And if we are good here, there's like a huge possibility that we will be in the training data already. If not, as I mentioned during the webinar, I think there is like quite a lot of offsite activities that we can perform. Cheaper, more expensive, depends on what we can achieve and what's the market. But this is also something that we can help with.
Awesome. We got a question from Darren. I can put it on the screen. How cool is that? Are we too late if we're not scrapped into current gen frontier models, or are we still early? Can ground be made up from a cold start?
Yeah, that's a really good one. And I think that it's definitely not too late, because right now we have, like, of course, different LLMs, and they launching quite a lot of new models pretty much every month. So there's always possibility to influence this training data, right? So definitely it's not too late. It's I mean, this is really good timing to do some activities to influence this training data to be more recognized as a website, as a brand.
Yeah, I will add though, obviously the brands that have, more chatter about them online, they've put out more content, they're going to just generally have more awareness. They're probably still going to beat out the little guys a lot of the time, at least for like recommendations, especially like those consideration-based prompts. But that's not to say that you can build a really technically sound website with very specific content that's addressed to your ICP that answers their questions that will absolutely be cited. Because if you do the best job at answering those questions, you have just as much opportunity as the other guys. Dion says, using the AI visibility platform, which looks great, but it seems to be US focused. Is this right? Used a .co.uk domain, but insights were all US and not UK. Well, I know that there's been some studies that actually show that ChatGPT, no matter where you're searching from, actually still favor a lot of US like brands a lot of the time. But Filip, I don't know if you can speak to sort of the makeup of the checker and how that's being done.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree that by default it can pull more information from the US index. There's like, as you Cara mentioned, there's like a lot of data behind it. But at the same time, I would consider to track AI visibility for specific countries. It is possible in some tools already, and I would pick these insights based on this data, not only on US, definitely, because we might miss some really nice insights, for example, regarding possible citations, websites that we can be mentioned. So this is definitely something that I would do. So not rely only on US. I would definitely go and set up UK monitor as well.
Is it possible for people to do that within our tool to like search for a specific geographical? Because if they check their UK and they're getting US.
Yeah, right now I believe that it's not available yet in the AI checker, but we have some internal tools to track it already, so it's included in our service.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, if you need something more specific, Dion, you can get in touch with me. That's something that our help desk can support with if you wanted just a quick sort of, like I said, we do those free audits. So we don't just use that tool, which is meant to really just be a self-serve snapshot. We can actually do some analysis for you if you'd like on a specific client. And then we've got one from Etienne. Would a website built with Lovable rank well on Google and in LLMs?
So I played with Lovable like a couple months ago, and I'm not sure if anything changed, but they heavily relied on client-side rendering. I'm not sure if it's fixed already. So this is exactly the part that we discussed regarding JS-heavy rendering. If this is still the case, it's a really huge risk, and I wouldn't risk it with Lovable, although there might be some external libraries to set up server-side rendering. So definitely a case that we can take a look. and probably consider when it comes to the lovable. But yeah, definitely something that I would consider while picking the right CMS for the or platform for the creation of the website.
Yeah, I think that's like always a point of contention with like web design agencies and like technical SEO agencies. It's like they want to build something beautiful and they're using the CMSs that allow them to do that. And a lot of the time it's like when we're focusing too much on JavaScript and like the beautiful animations and like what the site looks like, it can actually really impede performance a lot of the time. So
yeah,
if you ever have questions about what CMS, if it's a good one, we can always give our feedback. I know we've had people ask about like Webflow. We've had people ask about other various CMSs. So we're always happy to give our input. Doesn't necessarily always mean that you're not going to see any results, but obviously the more functionality from like the code perspective, the better.
Yeah, it's always difficult to find this middle ground. And just to also let you know that it's not always the case of CMS, but it can be a case of the architecture of the CMS. So just to give you a really simple example, that the most popular CMS I think right now still is the WordPress, of course, and you can build a really good looking and AI-ready website on WordPress, but at the same time you can create like a not perfect architecture on WordPress and be completely lost when it comes to the AI search. So yeah, it's not only about CMS, but also about architecture behind the CMS.
Totally. All right, that's all the questions we had. Thank you so much for being so engaged. We'll give everyone maybe 30 more seconds. Just put in any last final questions if you have. There's still 17 of you lingering, so obviously there's some good stuff here. Darren, can you share some examples you found of SUSO performing well in GEO and AEO responses? Is that something we have prepared right now, Filip?
Definitely we have the setup already for, as I mentioned, for US and UK, but yeah, something that I would need to pull out from our internal tools.
I think it's also worth mentioning, because I don't know that we really got into it, but the snapshot that you're pulling on the AI checker, that's always going to be a one-time snapshot. And all of this is based on synthetic data. So when I say synthetic, I mean ChatGPT, Google's AI mode, none of these tools actually give us any insight into what prompts people are searching. So tools like ours and tools like Profound and Scrunch and Peak and all of these other big ones, they're all running on synthetic data. And they're essentially putting out, hundreds of different prompts to test whether or not, your client was mentioned or cited. So ours does that as well. And I'm saying it's just a snapshot. It's not necessarily like okay, in every instance, the client wasn't cited or it was. Black boxes. I know it's annoying. But yeah, it's more directional, and you want to measure that over time. So you always want to just do that snapshot with a grain of salt. It's not definitive by any means, but it's meant to be directional. And then the technical stuff, though, is always definitive. It's always what you can control, and always what, gives the bots those access. So, and then I wanted to add, and I said this on our last webinar too, but Rand Fishkin and Datos and SparkToro, they did some interesting research on, how often essentially people would have to put in the same prompt to get the same response. And the output varies so greatly every single time. So yeah, measurement is very much a black box. So even if we showed you what SUSO was really good or SUSO was really bad, there's so many factors that could change the output of what that response is.
Yeah, that is why it's very important to have daily tracking.
Yeah.
Not weekly, not monthly. Daily tracking is key here, really.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, we'll give everybody 20 minutes of their day back, which is nice. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. It's been fun. If you have any other questions, my email is right there. Feel free to join the partner club. Like I said, we'd love to support you. Working with lots of web design and dev agencies on like migrations, on just general SEO and AI search or GEO or LLMO, whatever you guys want to call it. But yeah, we'll see you at the next webinar. Stay tuned, join our mailing list. We'll put out some information on that pretty soon. All right. Have a great day. Bye.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.